everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and right over there is the well-organized Nikki Kinzer.
That's funny. Hello.
Why is that funny?
I'm so well-organized.
You're so well-organized. We are talking about organizing today, which is very exciting because it's a back to our roots kind of an episode. I'm very excited to dig into this.
Well, not just this episode. There's going to be some more.
A whole slew, a veritable bouquet of organizing and ADHD. Before we dig into that, head over to TakeControlADHD.com and get to know the show a little bit better. You can listen right there on the website, subscribe to the mailing list. That's the best way to do it. Drop your email address and just click on the little button right there on the homepage and get an email with the latest episode each week. It's fantastic. You can, of course, connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD and call us at 503-664-4ADD to get your voice on the show. We would love to hear from you. All right. So it's spring. It's organizing time. You should open the windows. You should turn on some loud music, right? That's the rule. Here's my question for you, Nikki, before you dig in.
Yeah.
We used to be an organizing show, right? We've pivoted, became much more of an ADHD show. But I'm asking you straight up, how do you feel like your approach to organizing has changed? Your philosophy has changed in the, last year or so, of your work, more specifically with ADHD.
I actually don't think it has changed, to be honest with you, because even prior to being an ADHD coach, when I was working as a professional organizer, most of my clients had ADHD, and I knew that. So I always set up the systems with that in mind. And so it was such an easy transition for me because I've always organized this way.
Yeah.
I've never been one to have too many complicated systems or steps or anything like that, because it's not how I organize either. Sure. I mean, I have to break things down in order for me to approach them. So it's been interesting in the sense that I definitely have done more research just specifically on how ADHD affects organizing, like why it is hard for someone with ADHD to organize. So I definitely feel more informed with that than I did prior to just being an organizer without the ADHD background. Well,
that is actually really nice. And it's funny that you would, maybe that's why sort of instinctively organizing for ADHD came so naturally to you. You were already using the systems that
I was already
really
doing
for the ADHD brain. Well, let's dig in.
And it's still, actually, I just want to say it's still such a part of coaching too, right? Because it is such a big issue for people. So it never went away in my work. I know we switched the podcast name, and the focus of our podcast definitely got broader. It wasn't just about organizing, but it's never gone away. I mean, I still talk about it all the time with people. It's still an issue.
It's still an issue.
An ongoing thing, yeah.
Indeed. Well, where would you like to start? First, we have a call to action.
Well, I do. I really, I need something from our listeners. So everybody that's listening, and if you're listening to this currently, right? So if you're listening to this 6 months from now, it's probably not going to help us, but it still might. I would still encourage you to call. I would love to do one of the shows this month and have it really be centered around our listeners' questions about organizing. Mm-hmm. So if you have a question about organizing, please call us at our phone number. And Pete, you got to do the phone number because I screw it up and then I call the wrong one. And then I call Skype and I get all frustrated.
Yes, don't get frustrated.
Yes.
503-664-4ADD.
That's the number you want to call. And leave us a message and tell us what your question is. And I would love to hear from you. If you don't want to be on our show or leave a voicemail, you can always send me an email at Nikki, Nikki, at TakeControlADHD.com and put your question through the email waves. And one of the shows I would like to dedicate to just listeners' questions.
If you forget all that, you can just head over to TakeControlADHD.com and use the contact form there. That's pretty easy too.
That works too.
Lots of ways to reach out.
So many ways. Yes. And the other thing I want people to know that in the show notes for the next few weeks in the podcast and also in the blog, I have included a free download, and it's called Avoid These 5 Organizing Mistakes plus 5 Organizing Worksheets to help you get started. Say that 5 times. But definitely check that out at Take Control ADHD. It will be listed in every show so that you have easy access to that, but that's got some great information too. And I have one more thing to say.
All right. What is it?
This is an important thing.
Yes.
Coming very soon. I'm not going to give you an actual date because I have to be transparent. I'm just not ready for that yet. But it is coming soon. I am going to be launching a new online training program that is specifically geared to organizing with ADHD, and I'm very excited about it. So I will be talking about that in the next few weeks. And as soon as it's ready to launch and be ready for me to share to the public, we will definitely let you know that.
Absolutely. What's really nice is the bulk of it is done. It's really exciting.
We're really close.
Yes.
I mean, we're weeks away. I mean, like not even weeks, like couple weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
Very
away.
exciting.
It's really, really close.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be mentioning it at all. So it's good. It's good.
All right. So let's start. Let's dig in here. What is a big secret? The big secret on how to organize with ADHD.
It is. It's a secret.
It is a secret. It's a secret that you already know. You just didn't know it was a secret. That's
right. It's letting go of perfection.
Yeah. That's so hard. That's like, it's like letting go of like 6-pack abs in your fitness regimen.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're taught. We're taught that everything has to look perfect in order to be organized.
Well, and that's the problem, is that that's what people see. So most organizing books and magazines, that talk about organizing are not written for people that have ADHD. The systems are too complicated and, there are too many steps. But I think what's even worse than the system that they're trying to share is this expectation that in order to be organized, this is what your home has to look like.
Yeah.
And that's a hard expectation to live up to. And, the reality is we live and we work and we play in our homes. And if you don't live by yourself, you have other people who are living and working and playing in your home. So we just
kick them out.
Yeah.
Don't let them play in your homes. These other people.
Don't let them do it. And then you're going to be organized for life. It's great. Yeah.
Hang up the mic. We're done.
We're done. Just kick everyone out. Live by yourself. But we know that's not always the solution either. But homes just don't stay clean and they don't stay organized. So, but I still see my clients and people who talk to me about this. That's what they're comparing themselves to. That's what they see. And, that's what they think it means to be organized. And, I think the secret here is just letting that go and knowing that that's not real. And unfortunately, what happens too, Pete, is you probably have seen this. I don't know if it's you personally, but
go ahead. I dare you. I've probably seen it.
Not going to surprise you, but your self-esteem starts to suffer, right? When you start comparing yourself to something that's not possible, then we start to feel shame around that. Like, that's what I should be doing. That's what that means. And I'm not doing it. And I feel guilty about it. And we assume that everybody else is doing it. Why can't I?
Should is such a poisonous word, right? It's so dangerous.
Well, and then it gets into this limiting belief, because not only do you think you should be doing that, then you start to believe that you can't ever do it. Right. Like, you can't ever get organized.
If I'm not doing it now, I must be incapable of doing it.
I'm incapable. Right. Like, I have ADHD, I can't get organized. And the problem with that is that limiting belief right there will stop you, from succeeding in any organizing strategy. Yeah. Because we really have to believe, right, if we want change in our life or we want something different, that we can do it. And so I think that when when I'm talking with people, and you too, Pete, when you're talking to people about this, you make sure you tell them.
I've been known to talk to people.
Yeah. It's really starting to kind of shift their thinking in, again, what that means to be organized. And it's not by somebody else's standards. So it's shifting that belief system to, not that I can't, but I can, and it is possible. I just have to do it in my own way. And, back in the day when we talked about organizing, I've always said it's not about labeled bins and baskets, it's just about finding what you need when you need it. That's kind of the bottom line, is right. Yeah. Definition is finding what you need when you need it.
You know what's really funny about that is that it's really not about organizing labeled bins and baskets and, everything folded and hung up nicely. But one of the things that's so nice about this whole process is once you get good at the minimum sort of stakes of finding what you need need when you need it. You might even find it's sort of fun to start folding things a little bit more crisply, or making your bed every day, or taking those those next little steps. Like that's kind of a fun way to grow. But
it
builds, that does
right.
not mean organized, and that's what we have to continue to separate.
And if that's not fun for you, then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Then don't do it. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and organization is not necessarily a skill that you were born with, right? And we know with ADHD, as I was telling you earlier in the show, I've learned a lot about why that ADHD sort of gets in the way. And that it has to do with executive functions and how we plan and organize and all of this getting started and following through. These really important executive functions get in our way, right? So it's not a secret. I don't think anybody listening here is going to be surprised that organizing has been difficult. And that is actually why I developed this online training program. Is, the title of it is called Organizing Your Space Your Way. And it's really based on this concept of not striving for perfection, but to strive for what works best for you and what's good enough for you. So then there's that little question, right? What does good enough look like?
Yeah.
And you kind of, you address that a little bit when you were talking about the folding piece. The good enough, what I mean is that it's letting go of the perfection idea. So it's letting go that when you look at those books and magazines, understanding they are staged, it is no such, this does not exist. There is no such thing as this. And I think also a big part of being at a point where it's good enough is just accepting that organization may not be your strongest strength. But by no means does this make you a bad person or not worthy of happiness and joy, right? So it's taking that shame away, that yes, it's not my strongest strength, but I'm still a great person, right? I still do good things. And being okay with the piles and the stacks and not apologizing for it, I think is a big part of it. Especially if you can still find what you need when you need it. It may just not be packaged as pretty as you would like, but if you can still find it, then you're doing pretty good.
Well, that's the archetype of the seasoned journalist or the old professor, right? You go into their office and it's just stacked with piles. It's Andy Rooney. Remember Andy Rooney's office was a disaster, but he always knew what he needed right when he needed it, and that in its own way is organized.
It is. So I want to leave you, or leave the listeners and you, Pete, right?
Well, I could always use the help.
With just a couple of strategies, because if you're at a point where you can't find what you need when you need it, which we have to be honest, that's, where a lot of people are, then some work does need to get done. And so one of the reasons why you may not be able to find what you need is because you have too much stuff. And so we're going to go back to that whole, when was the last time you did any purging? If it's been a while, then it's definitely time to do it now, because that's a lot of what happens. If you can't find what you need, it's because you've got too much. You haven't paid attention to letting go of what you don't need, right?
Can I have an aside? This is so true. And I've been through. I believe I've shared on the show my struggles to find the right desk, right? Okay, so I found the right desk, and I went from my giant wraparound desk to a much, much smaller piece of stained wood that is nailed to these brackets in my wall that I can collapse when I leave. But it is much smaller, and as a result, Nikki, I'm not kidding. It's always, and I'm just going to use the word, clean.
Because it's smaller.
I can't fit as much stuff on it, and so that stuff does not go everywhere, and I have had to purge. I've had, by necessity, to get rid of stuff in order to make working at this desk acceptable, and I'm telling you, it works really, really well. Certainly worked for me. I don't mean to get too much into strategy again, but that is
no.
Huge.
I think that's I think that's a great thing to do, because you are kind of forcing yourself to just work with that space.
Yeah, it's understanding constraint.
Right. You have a boundary there that you have to work within, and that's what you're doing. And I think that when you are starting to purge, starting in a small space, I think is important then to focus. Don't focus on doing all of your home at once. Just focusing on the purging piece, just getting rid of things that you don't need or love anymore. And what's going to happen is this will free up that space for the items that do matter, for the things that you do need to find. And of course, when you have less, it's just easier to find what you need.
Absolutely.
My second strategy for people is to pay closer attention to the items that you're losing on a consistent basis. So you're not trying to organize your whole house. You're just focusing on this one piece that's driving you crazy, and you need to figure out what to do to make this work so that, you don't have to worry about this anymore, and practice putting them in the same place, whatever it is that system is for you. And what happens, I think, for most people is that you get the key thing nailed down, and then success starts to really build off success. So you're going to see this work, and you're like, okay, well, what other area in my life can I, set up a system and organize?
Absolutely.
And how is this going to affect me and my home and all of that? So, I think purging and paying attention to those items that you lose the most are great places to start.
Okay, so what is it was back when we were still the organizing show, we went through a very public shaming around our own organizing projects.
Geez. Our tolerations.
Now, I don't want to talk toleration specifically, but I am interested in what you find your latest mountain to climb is. For me, it was definitely this office project. I went berserk trying to get this office organized in such a way that was really working. What is your latest project, and how have you been applying this around the house?
Well, it's, long listeners of the show are going to say, oh, she's going to say her garage, but it's not. It's not my garage anymore. No, it is my daughter's bedroom.
Oh, talk about that.
Oh, it is awful. She does not have the organizing, what is it? The organizing natural skill. Like, it just doesn't come naturally to her. She has not been
listening to this show?
She has not been listening to the show. She thinks that she knows a little bit about what I do, so I think she just kind of expects that I'm going to go in and fix it.
Oh.
And
here's a grim realization.
Yeah. But that is definitely the most overwhelming room in my house right now, because it really is a mess. And, she's young still, so she has a lot of toys and a lot of little things. And, she's just messy. She just doesn't put things away, or if she does, it all goes into her bed, or it's a mess.
Wait, so you're not supposed to do that? That's one of the strategies.
You're not.
You're supposed to say, okay, no. Good to know.
No. So one of the things that I do because I do help her. Like, we're at this point now, actually, we're going to do it this weekend because we have people coming over. Isn't that funny? But because we have people coming over, out of town guests, I'm like, we've got to clean your room.
Totally.
But I really break it down, and I break it down into smaller sections because it's really overwhelming to try to think that I'm going to do it all in one day. It's bad, Pete. It's messy. And, so I'm just going to work on the dresser first and, clear that out and get that kind of in order. And then we'll start to kind of work around the room and just sort of take it, chunk by chunk, piece by piece, and see where it gets us before our guests come. But that right now, I have to break it down, or otherwise, man, I just want to shut the door and run.
Well, I know that one of the upcoming shows in this series is all about the family and organizing. And so I think this question is going to come back around, not just the family, but specifically kids. How do you get your kids involved? Because I think you're about to become even a better case study. We had a massive party of 6 kids, 6 fourth graders over at our house last weekend, and for a sleepover slumber. It was our first big slumber party. We've had people sleep over before with the kids, but never this many. And our project for this weekend is recover from that, because they all left, and then we all fell asleep the next day, and then it was the week again, and so our house is still kind of in a moderate state of disaster. And I know that because of the skills we've applied over the last several years, we can recover quickly, but we haven't as a family done it, and that's the hardest thing for us. Like, how do we continue to encourage and teach and model behavior for our kids to get them involved in recovery from these big events? And so I'm asking you your experience with your daughter only because, like, really, I have the exact same thing going on this very weekend, and our house is a disaster, and we've got to put it back together. And I want I want to make sure that the behavior is that we're all in it together. It's not just
I think that's huge.
Kids go out and play because mom and dad have to clean.
Well, and I can tell you definitely when we're working on it together, or this weekend, we will be working on it together. I'm not just going to go in and clean up her room. I know that's what she would like. Yeah. But she, I think she knows that that's not going to be the situation. She's got to do it with me. And I mean, when you do things like this, it's a great opportunity for you to teach them, how the process works and, get them involved. So we in a couple of weeks, we will have a show, just specifically on how to get your family involved. Next week, we're going to talk about the 3 reasons why your organizing efforts are not working. And so there's a little hint.
Spoiler, reason 3.5 is your family isn't involved.
That's right.
I can't wait. This is great. I love diving back into this stuff. I get very excited about organizing, and I'm feeling a little bit more on top of it again because of so many of these very skills and strategies that we've applied, that we've discussed, and that I have learned about from you on this very show. So I'm very excited to dive back into it. And so we've got a couple episodes coming your way. A handful of episodes coming your way around organizing in and around your ADHD. So very exciting stuff.
And check the blog post too, because I'm going to be writing an article every week about organizing. It's going to kind of piggyback whatever we talk about on the show. So blog post and podcast, lots of information this month.
Excellent.
And this new program too. So, very excited about that.
That's right. Set your radars. Be on the lookout. This is fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and sharing this podcast. We sure appreciate your support and kind comments. And on behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. And we'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.